There's a moment most people never talk about. You pull into the driveway after a day that tried to break you, the traffic, the noise, the screen that never goes dark, and you sit in the car for a few extra minutes because you're not ready to bring all that weight inside. You're not tired. You're poisoned. And the thing that's running through your veins right now has a name: cortisol. The stress hormone. And here's what nobody tells you: you don't need a pill to kill it. You need dirt. You need green. You need something alive that doesn't want anything from you. I'm going to show you how to build what old-timers called a healing garden. Not a pretty garden. Not an Instagram garden. A garden designed to do one specific thing: pull the cortisol out of your body and replace it with something that feels like coming home. The science is real. The method is older than this country. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what to plant, where to put it, and how to use it, even if all you've got is a back porch, a few old pots, and $10 to spend. Now, before I tell you what to plant, I need to tell you something that most gardening channels will never say. The act of planting is not the therapy. I'll say that again. The act of planting is not the therapy. The therapy is the return. It's coming back every day to something that grew because you touched it. Neuroscientists at the University of Bristol found that a bacteria in healthy soil, Mycobacterium vaccae, actually triggers serotonin production when it enters your body through your hands or lungs. That's right. The dirt itself is medicating you. The Appalachian grandmothers who told their grandchildren to go put your hands in the earth weren't being poetic. They were being precise. So the first plant you're going to put in your anxiety garden is lavender. Not because it's trendy. Because it works. Studies from the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine documented that even 5 minutes of touching or smelling lavender reduces cortisol markers measurably in saliva tests. You plant it in the sunniest corner you have. You don't baby it. Lavender wants poor soil and neglect. It thrives on being ignored, which makes it the perfect plant for someone who's already overwhelmed. If you live in USDA zones 5 through 9, it'll come back every year without you doing a thing. If you're in a colder zone, you grow it in a pot and bring it in before the first frost. Either way, you brush against it every time you walk by, and every time you do, your nervous system gets a small, quiet signal: you are safe here. The second plant is chamomile. German chamomile specifically. Plant it from seed in early spring, right after your last frost date, and by midsummer you'll have more flowers than you know what to do with. Here's the part people miss: don't just grow it to harvest. Grow it to sit next to. Pull a chair out on a warm evening and put it next to your chamomile patch. The volatile compounds that plant releases into the warm air, apigenin, bisabolol, are the same compounds that bind to GABA receptors in your brain. The same receptors that anti-anxiety medications target. You're sitting inside a natural pharmacy and it costs you 50 cents of seeds and an afternoon of your time. Now let me stop here and give you something you didn't expect. Because I promised a secret, and I keep my promises. There's a plant that Native American healers, particularly the Cherokee and Lakota, used specifically for what we now call nervous exhaustion. They didn't have that language, but they knew the feeling. The plant is lemon balm. Melissa officinalis. It looks like a weed. It spreads like a weed. Plant it in a container if you don't want it taking over. But understand what you're holding: one of the most powerful nervine herbs in traditional medicine, documented to reduce anxiety scores by 18% in clinical trials at the Human Psychopharmacology Journal. You can make tea from the leaves every single evening. You can crush a leaf and hold it under your nose for 30 seconds. Depression-era homesteaders in the Ozarks kept it by the kitchen door because every woman in the house needed it. That wisdom didn't disappear. It just stopped being taught. Here's the mistake that will kill your anxiety garden before it starts. People build it to look at, not to enter. They put the plants along a fence, stand back, nod at the pretty arrangement, and never actually step inside it. That's a decoration, not a refuge. You need a threshold. You need a path, even if it's 3 stepping stones you pulled from the hardware store for $2 each, that tells your body you are crossing from one world into another. The brain responds to ritual. When your nervous system learns that crossing those stones means cortisol drops, it starts anticipating it before you even get there. You're building a Pavlovian response, except instead of a bell and a dog, it's your worn-out body and a garden that knows your name. The third plant in your anxiety garden is holy basil, also called tulsi. It's an adaptogen, which means it doesn't just calm you down, it helps your body regulate its own stress response over time. In Ayurvedic tradition, it's been called the Queen of Herbs for 5,000 years. In practical American terms, it's a summer annual that grows everywhere from Florida to Minnesota, costs next to nothing to start from seed, and makes a tea that after 2 weeks of daily use starts to change the baseline of how you feel. Not dramatically. Quietly. Like the difference between waking up braced for something bad versus waking up neutral. That shift is worth more than any supplement you'll find on a shelf. Now I want to paint you a picture of what this garden looks like when it's done, because I want you to be able to see it before you build it. It doesn't have to be large. A 10 by 6 foot strip of ground, or 5 containers on a back porch, is enough. The lavender goes where it gets full sun. The chamomile goes where it can sprawl without being disturbed. The lemon balm goes in its own pot, contained but close. The holy basil goes near the door, where you'll brush it coming and going. You add one bench, one chair, one stump, something low to the ground where you can sit inside the garden, not outside looking at it. You add a small water element if you can. The bowl. The bird bath. A clay pot with a slow drip into a pan of stones. The sound of moving water drops heart rate. That's not poetry. That's physiology. In the 1930s, when the Dust Bowl destroyed everything and the Great Depression was dismantling American families from the inside out, the ones who survived psychologically, who didn't break, were documented by sociologists as having one common habit above all others. They grew something. Not because they needed the food, though they did. But because the act of tending a living thing reminded them that the world was not entirely hostile. That something responded to care. That their hands still had power. You are the inheritor of that knowledge. And right now, in a world that has traded dirt for concrete and silence for notifications, you have the same access to that same medicine. If you made it this far, I need you to do something before you close this video. Go look at whatever outdoor space you have, a porch, a patch of ground, a fire escape with 2 feet of railing, and ask yourself one question: where does the lavender go? That's it. That's the first step. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need a plan or a budget or a perfect season. You just need to know where the lavender goes. Because once you plant one thing with intention, one thing that exists purely to lower the noise in your body, the garden starts building itself around that anchor. Drop in the comments right now, what's the most stressed you've ever felt, and did nature ever pull you out of it? I read every single comment. And if this video gave you something real today, not just information, but something that felt like a deep breath, hit that like button and subscribe, because every week I bring you one more piece of old knowledge that the modern world forgot but your nervous system still remembers. See you in the next one.